By the end of this lecture, learners will be able to explore the foundational theories underpinning the communicative approach and task-based language teaching. Examine the shared principles linking the communicative approach and task-based language teaching across different environments. Analyze the significant differences that distinguish the communicative approach and task-based language teaching method in classroom settings. Investigate the real-world implementation of the communicative approach and task-based language teaching within various educational contexts. Hello everyone and welcome. In this lecture, we will examine the fundamentals of the communicative approach and task-based language teaching and their applications in contemporary education. We aim to highlight their strengths and differences, providing a clearer understanding of how each method contributes to language instruction. We will shed light on the importance of integrating both approaches to create dynamic and effective learning environments that cater to diverse student needs, and their complementary roles in shaping contemporary educational practices. So, let's begin with this question. What are the primary goals of the communicative approach compared to those of task-based language teaching? The communicative approach and task-based language teaching method are two prominent methodologies in language education. Both methods aim to enhance learners' communicative competence but differ in execution and theoretical underpinnings. The communicative approach focuses on interaction as the primary vehicle for language acquisition, emphasizing the use of language in real contexts. In contrast, TBLT centers on task completion, proposing that language learning is most effective when learners engage in meaningful tasks. Researchers state that both methods aim to create an engaging and authentic learning experience that fosters fluency and accuracy. This presentation seeks to compare and contrast these two methods, examining their theoretical foundations, similarities, differences, and practical applications to understand their impact on language learning and teaching. Theoretical foundations. The communicative approach is grounded in the belief that communication is both the goal and the means of language learning. This method emphasizes the importance of interaction in authentic contexts, where learners are encouraged to use the target language in realistic settings to improve their communicative competence. The theoretical framework of the communicative approach also highlights the need for learners to negotiate meaning and utilize language functions, enhancing their ability to convey ideas, beliefs, and emotions effectively. Here are the key theoretical foundations of the communicative approach. 1. The communicative approach views language learning as an active process where learners construct meaning through interaction and authentic communication tasks. Language is primarily considered as a system for expressing meaning and achieving communicative purposes in social contexts. This perspective shifted language teaching from structural drilling to meaningful interaction. 2. It draws from Chomsky's distinction between linguistic competence and performance, but extends further through Heim's concept of communicative competence, emphasizing the importance of understanding appropriate language use in different social situations. This includes sociolinguistic, strategic, and discourse competencies. 3. The approach is supported by Krashen's natural approach, suggesting that language acquisition occurs when learners are exposed to comprehensible input slightly above their current level. This theory emphasizes the importance of natural exposure to language in meaningful contexts. 4. It incorporates psychological learning principles from cognitive theory, emphasizing the importance of meaningful practice and authentic language use in developing automatic processing of language. This includes concepts like information processing and memory formation in language learning. Task-based language teaching, TBLT, is rooted in the principle that language learning is most effective through the completion of meaningful tasks. This approach is informed by theories of second language acquisition, which assert that language use in contextually rich tasks facilitates deeper understanding and retention. Unlike traditional methods that prioritize rote memorization of grammar rules, TBLT emphasizes the functional use of language in achieving specific communicative goals. The design of tasks in tblt often mirrors real-life activities, encouraging learners to actively engage with the language and solve problems collaboratively. Here are the key theoretical foundations of the task-based language teaching. 1. TBLT is grounded in the cognitive interactionist theory of second language acquisition, SLA, which emphasizes that language learning occurs through meaningful interaction and problem-solving in authentic contexts. 2. It draws heavily from Long's interaction hypothesis, suggesting that language development is facilitated through the negotiation of meaning during task completion, where learners must work together to achieve communicative goals. 3. The approach aligns with experiential learning theory, emphasizing learning by doing and reflecting on the experience, where tasks serve as vehicles for authentic language use and skill development. 4. It incorporates principles of learner autonomy and motivation theory, as tasks provide opportunities for self-directed learning and authentic achievement. Key similarities. Both the communicative approach and task-based language teaching, TBLT, converge in their shared objective of enhancing communicative competence among learners. This shared goal is achieved by emphasizing interaction and the practical application of language skills, fostering environments where learners actively use the language to communicate effectively. Each method supports the notion that language learning is most successful when learners are engaged in meaningful exchanges rather than passive absorption of linguistic information. Here are the key similarities between the communicative approach and task-based language teaching methods. 1. Focus on communication. The communicative approach and task-based language teaching fundamentally transform language learning by prioritizing authentic communication over traditional grammatical drilling. These methods recognize that language is primarily a tool for interaction, not merely a system of rules to be memorized. Students are encouraged to negotiate meaning, express personal thoughts, and engage in purposeful dialogue, thereby developing communicative competence that extends far beyond textbook exercises. 2. Meaningful contexts. Contextual learning transforms language education from an abstract, decontextualized process to a rich, purposeful experience. These methods argue that language cannot be effectively learned through isolated drills or mechanical repetition. Instead, language must be understood and acquired within authentic, meaningful contexts that reflect real-world communication situations. Every learning activity is carefully designed to provide a genuine communicative purpose, whether it's solving a problem, sharing personal experiences, or completing a collaborative task. 3. Learner-centered approach. Both methodologies radically shift the educational paradigm from teacher-directed instruction to learner-centered experiences. Instead of viewing students as passive recipients of linguistic knowledge, these approaches position learners as active participants in their language acquisition. The individual's unique background, learning style, and communicative needs become central to the instructional design. Learners are empowered to take ownership of their learning process, make strategic choices, and develop metacognitive awareness about their language development. 4. Authentic language use. Authenticity is a cornerstone of these progressive language teaching methods. Rather than presenting language as an abstract, decontextualized system, they immerse learners in genuine communicative contexts that reflect real-world language use. Tasks and activities are carefully designed to mirror actual communication scenarios learners might encounter in professional, academic, or social settings. 5. Integration of language skills. Both approaches integrate the 4 language skills, listening, speaking, reading, and writing, rather than teaching them in isolation. Language skills are not learned in isolation but are interconnected and mutually reinforcing. A single communicative task might require multiple skills, for instance, listening to a presentation, taking notes, discussing ideas with peers, and then writing a collaborative report. 6. Balance of fluency and accuracy. These approaches reject the false dichotomy between fluency and accuracy, recognizing that both are essential for effective communication. While prioritizing communicative flow and meaning-making, they do not ignore grammatical correctness. The goal is a balanced approach where learners can communicate effectively and with increasing linguistic precision. 7. Feedback and reflection. Continuous feedback and reflection are integral to these language learning approaches. Feedback is not a top-down, judgmental process but a collaborative, constructive dialogue. Learners receive input from teachers, peers, and through self-assessment, helping them understand their communicative strengths and areas for improvement. Reflection is encouraged through metacognitive activities like communication journals, peer discussions, and strategic planning. The key differences between the communicative approach and the task-based language teaching. The communicative approach and task-based language teaching, tblt, address language accuracy and fluency, albeit in distinct ways that reflect their pedagogical orientations. Here are the key differences between the communicative approach and task-based language teaching. 1. Focus of learning. The communicative approach emphasizes overall communication and social interaction as the primary vehicle for language learning. It seeks to create an environment where students can engage in meaningful conversations and exchanges, fostering their ability to express ideas and emotions in real-life contexts. In contrast, task-based language teaching centers on completing specific, goal-oriented tasks that drive language acquisition. Tasks are designed to simulate real-life situations, compelling learners to use their language skills purposefully to achieve a defined outcome. 2. Type of activities. In the communicative approach, a wide variety of communicative activities are employed, such as role plays, discussions, and simulations, all aimed at promoting interaction among students. Conversely, tblt specifically involves tasks that are structured around achieving clear objectives, such as planning a trip or conducting a survey. Each task requires students to use the language as a tool to accomplish something meaningful, which adds a layer of accountability and purpose to their learning experience. 3. Structure of lessons. Lessons in the communicative approach often feature a mix of activities that may not follow a strict task structure. This flexibility allows teachers to adapt to students' needs and facilitates spontaneous language use. However, in task-based language teaching, lessons are meticulously organized around specific tasks that have defined outcomes. This structured approach provides clarity for learners and ensures that each activity contributes directly to language development. 4. Assessment methods. Assessment in the communicative approach typically relies on informal methods, such as observation and peer feedback, to gauge learners' language use in interactive contexts. This approach values the ability to communicate effectively rather than focusing solely on grammatical accuracy. In contrast, task-based language teaching employs performance-based assessments that evaluate how well students complete specific tasks. This difference in assessment philosophy highlights the distinct priorities of each method regarding language learning outcomes. 5. Role of teacher. Teachers in the communicative approach play a facilitative role, guiding students in their interactions and providing support as they navigate conversations. This positioning encourages learners to take risks and experiment with language, fostering a collaborative learning environment. In task-based language teaching, however, teachers assume a more active role in designing tasks and evaluating student performance. They must craft engaging and relevant tasks that challenge students while offering support as needed. This proactive involvement ensures that tasks are appropriately aligned with learning objectives. 6. Language focus. The communicative approach prioritizes fluency, often teaching grammar contextually within meaningful interactions. It encourages learners to focus on conveying messages rather than getting bogged down in grammatical details. In contrast, task-based language teaching allows for a more targeted focus on language forms and structures as tasks are completed. This balance between fluency and form is a defining characteristic of tblt, making it a versatile method for language development. The practical application. Implementing the communicative approach and task-based language teaching, tblt, in educational settings presents various challenges and limitations for educators. The practical application of these approaches reveals contrasting views in several key areas that shape their effectiveness in educational settings. 1. Teacher training requirements. The communicative approach requires teachers to have strong interpersonal skills and a deep understanding of conversational dynamics to facilitate discussions and encourage spontaneous communication among students. In contrast, tblt focuses on equipping teachers with the skills to design effective tasks and assessments. The differing training requirements can lead to variations in how teachers implement these approaches in the classroom. 2. Classroom setup and resources. Classrooms employing the communicative approach are typically arranged to foster spontaneous interaction and promote a dynamic learning atmosphere where students can easily engage with one another. Conversely, tblt may require a more structured environment, with designated areas for specific tasks and resources organized to facilitate particular activities. 3. Time management approaches. The communicative approach encourages fluidity in lesson pacing based on student engagement. This flexibility can enhance the richness of language exposure, as conversations evolve organically. In contrast, tblt emphasizes precise time management to ensure that each task is completed within a set time frame. This focus on efficiency can lead to a more structured lesson flow, potentially limiting organic conversation and reducing opportunities for students to explore language in a less constrained manner. 4. Materials and teaching aids. The communicative approach benefits from a diverse array of authentic materials, such as newspapers, videos, and real-life artifacts, which stimulate conversation and provide context for language use. In contrast, tblt relies heavily on task-specific resources, such as worksheets and project guidelines that are directly aligned with the objectives of each activity. The selection of materials plays a crucial role in shaping student experiences and learning outcomes in both approaches. 5. Student motivation. In the communicative approach, motivation often stems from engaging in meaningful conversations and real-life settings. This relevance can spark enthusiasm and encourage active participation. Conversely, tblt enhances motivation through goal-oriented tasks that provide clear outcomes, appealing to students' desire for achievement and recognition. 6. Skill development rates. The communicative approach may lead to faster improvements in fluency. Frequent opportunities for speaking and listening can accelerate language acquisition and build confidence. In contrast, tblt might result in more balanced skill development across specific language competencies, as tasks often require the integration of various skills, speaking, listening, reading, and writing, in context. Conclusion. The effectiveness of the communicative approach and task-based language teaching varies significantly across different educational contexts, such as English as a second language and English as a foreign language environment. Research stated that the communicative approach thrives by utilizing the surrounding language context to enhance learners' communicative competence through interactive activities. This immersive environment allows learners to practice language skills in real-life situations, thereby reinforcing the acquisition process. Conversely, tblt offers a structured framework that facilitates language use through task completion, effectively bridging the gap between classroom learning and practical application. Both methods demonstrate adaptability to diverse educational contexts, offering valuable frameworks that can be adapted to meet varied learner needs, ultimately reflecting their enduring impact on language learning and teaching.